audience, and are they likely to come before the court, as well as does this preserve a judge's ability to hear and decide cases? There are specific sentences that lead me to further contemplation. I'd like to share those. I actually am uncomfortable that these sentences do more to cast doubt on our system than comfort to Alaskan-specific readers. Why did the court weigh in at all? Is this their job? Is there a problem with the justice system that and one of the justices, Chief Justice Bolger, is administratively responsible for? Does this weigh in on the Tuesday night attack on APD officers? What if that case moves through the system somehow to the Supreme Court? What are the implications? The whole statement begins not talking about the issues surrounding George Floyd. It begins talking about the aftermath and almost seems to be prejudging the aftermath. I have difficulty with that, but here's some examples that I specifically am concerned about. Quote, we recognize that too often African Americans, Alaska Natives, and other people of color are not treated with the same dignity and respect as white members of our communities. And we recognize that as community members, lawyers, and especially as judicial officers, we must do more to change this reality. Well, what should they be doing differently? Frankly, is there a self-report that they need to be making here? Seriously. Other than platitudes, have we been provided a suggested solution, or is that in the works? The next quote is, while so many members of our community are not heard and are not treated fairly, we must make changes. Are they suggesting legislative authority or just proposing a solution that can then go through the legislature? Again, where is the suggested solution? Or is there a forthcoming solution? The statement makes no points about that. And then the last item that I selected, I actually had issue with the entire statement, but here's the last item. As lawyers, we must work to improve access to legal assistance for individuals and communities, breaking down barriers that keep so many people in need from having meaningful access to our courts. Aren't they supposed to be writing as justices first? Why are they using their position in letterhead, which we've just addressed earlier today, as justices, implying they can improve things like legal assistance or removing barriers? They don't have that authority, and frankly, this is not their job. And if it is their job and they know there's problems, why haven't they addressed them? Why aren't there self-reports? So this entire statement, while it may have been well-intended, and the sentiments expressed in there align with my thoughts on our current situation in this world, I think they can be viewed as casting doubt on the system they are sworn to uphold. As a commissioner appointed by the last 4 governors to this position, I can say that our Alaska system is one of excellence. And so I'm at a loss. I really dislike a new term that I recently learned, but to me, this seems to be white virtue signaling, and with the possible effect of gaining personal prestige. It's very troublesome to me. And so finally, has the commission been notified of suggested changes since the release of this statement? If not, I would like to formally request a status update on the Supreme Court's Justices progress that they bring up in this statement. You can't just put something like this out there and let it sit. It disturbed both myself as a commissioner. I can't even guess what it did to make other people uncomfortable who may have read this in various media. It wasn't just APRN that carried it. I was able to find references to this across all major media in Alaska. And to me, this casts more aspersions on our system, one that we all know as commissioners is one of excellence, than it did to support or encourage. And so with that said, I really would like to request a status update from them on their progress. And I hope you'll support that as commissioners as well.
respond, this is Commissioner Roman. So I'm a judge in a largely native community and region. I've spent about 15 years out in Northwest Arctic. Of that time, I've been a judge out here for just over 10 years, and I grew up in Alaska. I didn't know what they were talking about. I've been a part of the criminal justice system as a lawyer and as a judge for a long time, and the implication is that there's something wrong, and I think you can't say that unless you can point to specific examples. I'll just say straight up, I think Alaska does a lot of things right. And I've been in court in Anchorage, in Palmer, Valdez, Dillingham, and spent a lot of time in Kotzebue Court, in Barrow, in Nome. I have not seen what they're referencing. I've not seen it. I've not heard it. And I think it might have just been a support letter, kind of recognizing that generally out there in the ether that this is a sentiment, but as a non-white Mexican who lives up in a largely native, I didn't know what they were talking about, and I didn't like the implication that somehow I was doing something wrong, or had done something wrong as a judge, because I didn't know what they were talking about. And I think I agree with you that making those types of statements generally can be very dangerous because of the atmosphere that we're in. I think at a minimum I would support for the sentiment that to the extent there are those where access is a problem, because the court is focused on access to justice,